Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where we are once more in the studium to start another of the role quests for gatherers and crafters, namely this time the Fisher. Fear the Thesis. Could it be? Yes, you must be the gleaner I heard so much about. Let me get straight to the point. Calm down, calm down. Oh, but where are my manners? Allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Telaka Tia, and I'm an associate professor in the Faculty of Aetherology here. To tell the truth, I'm in a bit of a bind. I'm scheduled to make a major presentation at a conference in the near future, but as ashamed as I am to admit it, I've not been able to get enough data to properly finish my thesis. If I'm unable to prove the worth of my research, my funding is all but certain to dry up. As you can see, the stakes are high. You have a look of an adept angler about you, am I right? If so, you could be just the person I need. This section here is one I've rented out for my work. Might I interest you in taking a look? Sure. Impressive, isn't it? I bet you've never laid eyes on such a fine fish tank before. Sadly, as you can see, it's entirely devoid of fish. Anyhow, I suppose I should tell you about my work. You see, I research water veins. Not just any old ones, mind you, but those that carry aether. Not unlike the life stream or the etheric currents in the wind. Life is naturally drawn to areas abundant in aether, which is why you might observe the popular fishing spots are often also aether-rich. My research focuses in particular on veins which carry especially high concentrations of aether, currents commonly known as spectral currents. Are you perchance familiar with the phenomenon? I've heard of it. I don't think there's ever done ocean fishing. I expect nothing less from a veteran gleaner. I must say it's always nice to meet someone familiar with the subject of my life's work. In any event, the most important point to remember is just how important aether currents are for aquatic life. To look at it the other way, it is possible to identify how strong the local aether currents are by studying the fish and other aquatic life in any given area. And that's where we come full circle. I require specimens of fish from various bodies of water to confirm my hypothesis regarding underwater aether currents. And that's a wrap. The areas most worth researching are also to be the hardest to reach. Of course, I would not be averse to risking the journey myself, if only it were not for my condition. Condition? Yes, I suppose I should explain. Put simply, I've long suffered from a particularly nasty case of aether sickness, why I can't even use the Aethernet or any sort of teleportation magics. Quite annoying when your work partially depends on such things, to say the least. That sounds bad. I know, an aetherologist who can't stomach aether. I wouldn't believe it were I not living this nightmare myself. But perhaps you're skeptical. I have an idea. Follow me to the Aetherite Plaza and I'll show you just how bad I've got it. Ah, there you are. Alright, watch closely now. Attuning. You see, I'm feeling so queasy, it's all I can do to hold down the contents of my stomach. The whole world is spinning. Someone make it stop. What's this? Forgive me. Wow. Well, there you have it. My condition has manifested itself all over the ground for you. I say, Telaka, are you quite alright? Professor Nell. I see your condition is as bad as ever. One would think you'd avoid a place like this. And you, are you perchance assisting Tilaka with his research? The boy may suffer from terrible Aether sickness, but as a scholar, he has as much potential as anyone I've seen. You develop an eye for these things when you've been in academia for as long as I have. But I must be on my way. I very much look forward to reading your finished thesis, Tilaka. Did I mention I don't handle pressure particularly well? I've barely written the introduction to my paper and Professor Nell is already selling it up to his peers. How could I possibly live up to his expectations? Incidentally, Professor Nell is one of the leading authorities in the world of aetherology. Some would even say he's the equal of Master Matoya, and for some reason he seems to have taken a liking to me. He's the one who pushed for the school to allow me to form my own research team as the first and trial phase of a program to support young scholars. Otherwise, a humble associate professor such as myself would never be able to conduct such an ambitious project. And yet, I run the risk of losing everything if I don't turn my potential into actual results at the upcoming conference. Not only would my own research team be disbanded, but there's a high likelihood that Professor Nell's program would be terminated, meaning that no other young scholar would ever again receive the opportunities I did. The very future of a studium is at stake. Part of me wishes I could just drink my worries away. Sadly, I handle alcohol about as well as I handle Aether. I may not be good at dealing with Aether or pressure, but one thing is certain, for Professor Nell's sake, I must not fail. I cannot! And so back of you, pray help me. There's no one else to whom I can turn. Fine. Thank you. Oh, thank you. You're the shining beacon of hope for all young scholars here in Charlian. Now, let us head back to Search's meet so we can get to the task. I shall meet you back at my office. And who cleans the mess you've caused? That's it. I was just compiling a list of fish that I'll be needing for my research. Let me know when you're ready to get fishing. I'll fill you in on exactly what I would ask you to do. Faculty of Aetherology. Studium delivers unlocked. Go with the flow. Alright then, shall we get started? To review, I require samples of aquatic life from various bodies of water, that I might analyze them and ascertain the current state of the respective region's underwater aether currents. Before I send you off to far-flung locals, I'd like to gather data from somewhere nearby. Collecting samples from a stable, controlled environment like Aberynthos should give me a good basis with which to compare any future findings. To that end, I'd like to ask you to catch me some giant aether lice, and a fair share of them to ensure a representative sample size. According to my preliminary research, they swim in abundance near the Priatic conduit and have a noted fondness of gold salmon roe. Now, how many fish do we need? Is it 6 like everyone else? Looks like it. Now, I know I don't have much in terms of bait, so unless I want to use a versatile bait, which I do not want to do for this, not gonna hunt for something specific. I need to buy something. Gold salmon roe. Let's go with 20 for now. And this pond, you say? Well, I guess it's not really a pond, but whatever. And gold salmon roe. collectible. Don't forget the collector's glove, otherwise we waste time. Yep. Alright. The 20 bait just barely were enough. So... any luck catching those lice? If not, I suggest heading to the phreatic conduit with some gold salmon in your tackle box. That is what your fishers call it, yes? Now, this is a remarkable catch. Impressive specimens like these will give me even more quality data. Can't thank you enough. Thanks to your effort, I've been able to compile a full set of reference data. Now we can finally get started on spots further afield. But before that, I haven't yet explained my research to you in detail, have I? Simply put, there's a certain hypothesis I want to prove. In my studies over the years, I've come to believe that much like the tide ebbs and flows with the phases of the moon, so too do the underwater aether currents that cover our entire planet. When the concentration of aether in any given current changes, aquatic life in the area grows more or less abundant, which ultimately affects the currents of the ocean itself. My hope is that if I can prove this and accurately predict these changes, we might theoretically identify the best times for fishing and even know when it's safest to navigate the seas. Needless to say, it would be a major breakthrough, and I'm one step closer to realizing it all thanks to you. Ah, Telaka. It looks like your research is progressing well. Professor Nail. I heard that your friend here had started gathering samples for you, so I brought a few choice tomes with me that might serve to point you in the right direction. As always, you're too kind, Professor. I can't thank you enough. Don't mention it. When the time comes that your research bears fruit, that will be all the thanks I need. Your mind for developing a compelling hypothesis has always impressed me. You lacked only for a skilled cleaner to help you overcome the limits of your affliction. I'll be watching this new partnership of yours with great interest. Why, that actually wasn't so bad. Just having you around is already taking a huge weight off my shoulders. Up until now, Professor Nail's confidence in me only made me feel pressure to deliver something that I wasn't even sure I was capable of. But now, I finally started to make some tangible progress, and it's all because of you. For the time being, I feel like I may have a bright future in academia after all. Good. Yes, I have a feeling everything is going to go swimmingly. No pun intended. As long as you're by my side. Esteem level increased. Telakatia is pleased with her efforts. He now considers you a dependable fisher. Okay, what next? Oh, hello again. Did you notice the fish tank, by the way? I went ahead and put one of my research specimens in it. Quite a looker, wouldn't you say? I tell you, so many things have fallen into place ever since you showed up. I'm having the time of my life analyzing all this data. I mean to continue my analysis on Aetherlice, of course, but I will task another gleaner with such mundane tasks. Instead, I'd like to make full use of their skills by having you visit an area I've long been fascinated with. I speak of the ocean surrounding Fafnir. I have reason to believe there's a significant change in the aether currents in those waters that occurred around the time of a calamity. Professor Nail shared with me some data from 20 years prior, and I would compare it with current data to ascertain if I'm correct. The waters around Fafnir, you see, have long been one of the focal points of Professor Nail's research. I wish to study them more to honor his work, but also using it as a starting point for my own. Before you go, however, a word of warning. Ever since the calamity, the region is notorious for shipwrecks. I realize that you are a seasoned professional, but I fully understand if you do not want to take on the risk. I almost didn't return from my voyage on the Siren Song Sea. So the rumors were true. Still, he could always fish off the island's coast. I reckon there wouldn't be much risk in that. Anyhow, I'd like you to fish the same species that Professor Nell studied 20 years ago. To wit, the Gajana wrasse. According to the book the professor gave me, they live near the Great Runoff and are known to enjoy nibbling on shrimp balls. And that should do it. Be safe out there, yes? Great Runoff should be the waters around the Great Works. Right. Good. Have you managed to reel in any wrasse? According to my references, they live in relative abundance near the Great Runoff, yeah. Speaking of which, how do you plan to travel to Fafnir? I suspect teleportation magic would be the most convenient way. If certainly not one available to me. In either event, do take care. Dear me, what impressive specimen. This should allow me to collect data as complete as Professor Nels from 2 decades ago. I can't wait to compare my findings. Well, let's say I've more than enough samples now. Pray wait for just a moment. I'm going to ask Professor Nell to take a look. It's not every day that you ask after me, Talaka. I trust this means that your research is coming along well. Better than I could have ever imagined. As a matter of fact, I was hoping to hear your thoughts on my latest findings. Comparing my data to yours from 20 years ago, I can say with confidence that the concentration of Aether in the area did indeed show an increase around the time of a calamity. From these numbers, I would posit that smaller fish species in the area have increased in abundance several-fold. The Gajana wrasse, in particular, is known for protecting itself from predators by creating disturbances with surrounding Aether. A population increase of such scale would undoubtedly result in a dramatic impact on its habitat. I don't understand. Which would go a long way to explain the countless shipwrecks. The sheer number of these fish would surely play havoc with ships' Aether compasses. Outstanding work, Talaka. Of course, more data will be needed to prove your assertions as fact. Should it hold true, however, this could be a discovery of no small import. Come to think of it, I remember you showing considerable interest in my research into the seas around Fafnir. What exactly was it that drew you to my work? It's just, well, I always found the figure somewhat unnatural? Call it a hunch, but I couldn't help but feel like it wanted further research. Ah, now that's the true spirit of a scholar. Even the most epoch-making of discoveries often started from observation of a single irregularity or curiosity. With that intuition and power of observation, you're going to go places, Talaka. I knew my faith in you was not misplaced. I am? You flatter me, Professor. Take care not to let it go to your head. Your potential will only be stifled if you allow yourself to be content with minor progress and faint praise. Of course, Professor. I will double my effort and work harder than ever to deliver results. And on that note, I'd best get to work summarizing my findings for inclusion in my thesis. If I'm able to identify the explicit correlation among the post-calamity change in Aether concentration, the explosion of fish population, and the increase in shipwrecks, it will go a long way toward proving my theory correct. Of course, I'll be needing more fish specimens before that can happen. Fair warning, I might send you to even more hazardous locales. And yet, I'm sure you're up to the challenge, yes? Splendid. I swear this is the most invigorated I've ever felt about my research. Now where to start? Tilaka Tia is delighted with your efforts. He now considers you a formidable fisher. Hello again. I truly can't thank you enough. The samples you've provided me with have allowed me to make incredible progress in my work. As it happens, I actually just decided on the new specimen I'd like to ask you to procure. You see, I've essentially completed my analysis of the current surrounding Fafnir. I must say it's been most enlightening. Next, I would ask you to travel to a place where we have no pre-existing data. To it, I mean to research accounts in Garlemald. We've been unable to even set foot in the region until now, which means that gathering data there could lead to a truly revolutionary discovery. After all, we still have no idea how the underwater Aether currents there are connected with those in other regions. Also, lacking data from years past, it won't be such a simple task to identify the changes that have occurred over decades. I do, however, have an idea how we might get around that. The answer, my friend, is shellfish. Studying the growth lines within their shells should allow me to draw some conclusion about how their habitat has changed over time. After carefully perusing Professor Nail's tomes, I've come to the conclusion that Garlean clams would be particularly suitable as research specimen. Do you think you'd be up to the task of catching some for me? Clams, you say? Leave it to me. Wonderful. I'm quite confident that quality data from Garlemald is what will allow my thesis to truly begin to take shape. Yes, I also read that clams exist in abundance in the area around Camp Broken Glass and that leeches are particularly effective in luring them up from the water's bottom. Pray forgive me for asking you to travel to such a perilous location. Please, do whatever you must to stay safe. Can I? Nah, I don't have any, yeah, I know, but... Leeches... And off to Isabah to Camp Broken Glass. And somewhere around here, you say? Like this pond over there? Stop. so now I wasted GP. God damn it. Let's try this again. Escaped. Alright. To luck at here. Any luck finding those clams? I've heard Garlemald continues to be a most volatile and perilous place. I admire your courage, friend. Even were it not for my Aether sickness, I doubt I could work up the nerve to go there myself. You've done it, and what a remarkable sample it is. My colleagues will be burning with envy when they hear I've obtained a specimen from Garlemald. How can I begin to express my gratitude? Oh, you might be wondering who this is. My research has been progressing so well of late that I brought on a few of my students to serve as assistants and help me analyze all this data. At any rate, I cannot thank you enough for braving such hostile environments for the sake of my life's work. No one in my field has had the chance to obtain substantial data from Garlemald until now. It would be no understatement to say your contribution is historic. Needless to say, this puts even more pressure on me to deliver with my thesis. My stomach's starting to feel queasy just thinking about it. Ah, Tilaka. Would you believe you have a talk of a studium? Even the senior faculty can scarcely wait to hear what you're able to glean about the Aether currents of Garlemald. Professor, yes, it's all thanks to Desiree here. Without her aid, I never could have procured this most invaluable specimen. Indeed, truly, I do not have seen the partnership between scholar and gleaner bear such fruit so swiftly in a very long time. Oh, that's right. Speaking of gleaning, I meant to tell you about everything I'd gleaned from the clams you brought. Already? When? I'm pleased to report that analyzing Garlean clams appears to have been the right call. Examining their growth lines, I was able to find specimens as old as 97 years, which gives me almost a full century of data to analyze. By far the most interesting thing I've noticed so far is the reverse correlation between the Aether levels near Fafnir and those in Garlemald. That is to say, over periods of time when the Aether concentration was high near Fafnir, it was low in Garlemald. The reverse was also true. I see. That bit of evidence would seem to corroborate your hypothesis that the planet's Aether currents move in tandem with each other. Should you manage to collect data from other regions still, I suspect you may very well be able to accurately predict changes in the fish population across the world. This could have remarkable implications for the future of a fishing trade. I was thinking the same thing, Professor. Nothing would give me greater joy than if my research were to bring about a tangible improvement in people's lives. Before meeting you, I never dreamed I would make it this far. But now I feel more confident than ever that I will be able to prove my hypothesis one day. Why, I can almost see my completed thesis in my mind's eye, but I can't afford to get complacent just yet. The most important work remains to be done. I'm pleased to see that all is progressing well. And yet, do not be surprised if there comes a time when Telaka's resolve as a researcher is tested. A time when he is forced to consider what it is that truly drives him to engage in his work. For such times come to all scholars, no matter how naturally gifted they may be. Should Telaka find himself in an impasse, can I trust you to lend him your support when it's needed most? It would mean the world to him, and to me. Esteem level increased. Telaka Tia is overjoyed with your effort. He now considers you a seasoned fisher. Next, a quest, yeah. I spend all my time in search as meat these days. Frankly, I'd be willing to do anything that would help the professor to finally finish his thesis. Okay. But I think that should be it for this episode. We continue this next time. Until then, I'm Ace, and don't get lost.